everyone, Scrivener here. Wow, so 10,000 subscribers. We were not expecting to hit 10,000 so early in the year. Welcome to all our new subscribers. Thank you for helping us hit 10K. We hope you're enjoying your stay. I'm Sarah the Scrivener, and my adorable shorter YouTube counterpart and best friend is Paige the Princess. We're both big Disney fans and often talk about Disney, but we also do any media that strikes our fancy. If you haven't yet, I highly recommend you watch our PNS Watch series, where we make running commentary on a movie, which is inspired by Practical Folks' Drunk Disney series, as well as Mystery Science Theater 3000. So we got this wave of subscribers mostly because there was this huge rush of views on my And with an E video and then the Coraline video I did back in October. And we got a lot of comments as a result. There were a lot of things that came up over and over again in my Coraline video, and I felt that they deserved their own video to address them. First off, there was a bit of an incident where I acted poorly in responding to a comment, and I want to give some context. I got a lot of rude comments on that video, ranging from how my chin looks bad to the fact that I used the word misogyny once. I can only imagine how people would have reacted if I'd actually written the word misogyny on my chin. But anyways, there were dozens of people who'd commented that because I used the illustrations from the Coraline graphic novel, I must not have read the actual book. Many of these comments were very patronizing, and it got to me. And so the very next time I saw one of those comments, I replied in a very obnoxious manner because I interpreted it to be rude, even though it wasn't. Some people interpreted my comment as an insult to everyone who had ever watched the video, which it was not meant to be. In my original comment, I also used the word cretin, which after doing some research, I realized is a very ableist word, considered a slur against disfigured and disabled people. So I changed the word to the Shakespearean oyster wench. I let my temper get the better of me, and I lashed out at someone who I shouldn't have lashed out at. And it was wrong of me. And I'm very sorry for doing so. And now let's talk about the movie. In regards to the graphic novel, I would like to reiterate that yes, I did read the actual book. Videos are a very visual medium, and generally, no one likes to read giant paragraphs from a book in a visual essay style video. And it meant that I could distinguish visually when I was talking about the movie and when I was talking about the book. So that's why the graphic novel is there. Many people thought I hated Wybie. Let's talk about why I hated Wybie with a passion of 1,000 unnecessary banana slugs. Okay, maybe they have good reason. I should have been a little more specific about what I meant by that in that video. That's on me. I don't actually hate Wybie the character, nor do I want you to think that I hate you if you like and enjoy him in the story. Wybie is a nice boy who doesn't really have any flaws. He's very likable. That's not what I'm challenging. When analyzing stories, it's important to remember that characters are not real people. They do not have free will, and they do not exist in a vacuum. A writer makes choices, and that is why a character acts the way they do. And I thought that Wybie's function as a plot device was indicative of lazy, unimaginative writing. That's what I was criticizing in the video. Some people felt that Wybie was important because of the way he acts as a plot device. Yes, that is the purpose of a plot device. Sometimes plot devices are done well. I'm not saying they're not, but I thought that Wybie was a particularly contrived one. Just because he gives Coraline the doll in this movie doesn't mean that he absolutely had to. It's clear the doll can move by itself. Wybie doesn't have to bring it to her, but he does because otherwise he doesn't serve much of a purpose in the story. And that's just one example, which is exactly what I was arguing. Some argued that Wybie is there because there's so much introspection and narration in the book that Coraline would have been talking to herself the whole time, or they would have had to have voiceover. This is something that I actually addressed in the video. There are plenty of characters for Coraline to talk to, and dialogue isn't the only way to convey the personality and thoughts of a character. These are generally regarded as the relative strengths and weaknesses between movies and books. Books readily allow for introspection, while physical things like body language are more difficult to describe subtly, and movies can easily portray physicality and facial expression while struggling to show inner thoughts. That's the challenge with adapting a book into a movie. That being said, there are plenty of filmmakers and writers who are able to accomplish that. I think that if Coraline's team had been able to do their job, they wouldn't have needed to invent a new character to show Coraline's personality. For the record, it's wonderful that Wybie is black and coded as neurodivergent. Representation is kind of our thing on this channel. It's not wonderful how the film treats the only character who fits those parameters poorly. The film seemed to go out of its way to not make it obvious that Wybie was mixed race, specifically black, until the very final scene, which I thought was weird. Besides the way this information is avoided visually by distorting his grandmother and great-aunt's skin color, Wybie himself is light-skinned enough to be white passing. His design is racially ambiguous. He's not pale like Coraline is, and he has dark curly hair. That describes anyone from Gaten Matarazzo to my mother. I don't know why they did this, but it just seems a little bit sketchy to me. And it's not just Wybie's blackness that's treated oddly in the movie, it's also the fact that he's coded as autistic. Wybie is physically and verbally assaulted by the white, assumed neurotypical protagonist, and she is never really reprimanded for it. A few people noted that here, Wybie functions as a way to show Coraline's character development. That's still terrible. Why is the only non-white, non-neurotypical character a punching bag for this privileged white girl's emotional problems? Why is he used as a prop for her to learn to be more compassionate and less of a brat? That's messed up! And that's what I really hated about the writing of Wybie's character. Wybie wasn't just a plot device. He was a black, autistic, coded character who either existed to support and foster the development of a white, neurotypical, obnoxious protagonist while never getting an arc himself, or to detract from Coraline's self-sufficiency. And yes, though they sound contradictory, both of these things can and do exist in the same movie because they just can. Honestly. Since his primary function is to support Coraline, very little effort is put into making him an interesting character. Which is unfortunate because it really wouldn't have taken much effort to make him more dynamic. But he doesn't even get the satisfaction of a fulfilling subplot with his great aunt. His aunt is an interesting story element that didn't get the exploration she deserved. It's creative and it's different from the book, and it's directly relevant to Wybie. It would give him an importance to the story that wasn't directly related to Coraline. And I'm not saying that I expected Wybie to weep over a relative he never met or anything, but without having him invested in the outcome of his aunt's fate at all, his family trauma is centered entirely on Coraline, and specifically how it affects her. And it's her bravery and cleverness that sets his great aunt free. And with that, we're a little bit in white savior territory, if not just completely in white savior territory. And again, this does not mean that Coraline herself is bad because of this. She can't make her own decisions or thoughts. It means that a writer made a most likely subconscious choice that enforced the idea of a white savior. I still think that given the blueprint the book laid for the story of a clever, independent, kind heroine, Wybie is a building block in the foundation of robbing Coraline of those aspects in the movie. He's not solely responsible for it, but he does play a role. I would have much preferred for Coraline to be a girl of color, and I don't think coding her as autistic would have hindered the story at all either. But given how they treated these things when they manifest in Wybie, I don't know if they could have done that idea any good. And no, these problems with Wybie would not have disappeared in my mind had he been exactly the same, but a girl instead, as some very creative people suggested. It still would have been messed up if Coraline treated a girl Wybie the same way she does boy Wybie. Maybe that would have been removed because a girl punching another girl isn't as acceptable in fiction as a girl punching a boy, which is just... that's a whole other can of worms about the double standards of abuse, but anyway. A gender swap would not have fixed these problems. Though I do think it's worth noting that if Wybie had been a girl, I don't think I would have had as many people as I did angrily defending Wybie's importance in the story. I think I would have had a lot more people agreeing with me. The only thing that a gender swap would have done is remove my suspicion that Wybie's inclusion was not just the result of inept filmmakers, but was possibly done to encourage young boys to see the film even though it bore the name of a female protagonist. And to all those people who were turned off by my mere mention of the word misogyny, I don't think you would have enjoyed your stay on this channel. To be perfectly candid, I think it's naive not to even entertain the idea that Wybie was put in this film because producers, studio execs, or any of the team thought that a movie featuring a lone female protagonist couldn't be marketed to young boys. Which is ridiculous. Gendered marketing is not based on hard science, but instead on tradition, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Boys are not encouraged to like things that girls like because of culture and marketing, and so there is often little marketing that attempts to persuade boys otherwise, instead just leaning more into gendered marketing. And again, you're allowed to like Wybie. If Wybie's blackness or autistic coding, or both of these things combined, makes you feel like you belong in the world, then I'm happy for you. And I'm not trying to take that away from you. You can like him and acknowledge the faults in his writing. Critiques of flawed stories are not meant to silence what little good they do for those who enjoy them. They are merely meant to strengthen our attempts in the future. Thanks for watching.